this is Paul Mackey, and you're listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. Today will be thoughts on Press Gang in a little while, but first, happy homegrown, as they say around here. It's been the Duluth Homegrown Musical Festival this past week. I think I mentioned it in the last recording, and since that last recording, I caught my son's cold and managed to fend off the worst symptoms by taking a day off work, pounding fluids, and resting, although I think I might still have a lingering cough and hoarseness. I think the day I was resting might have been the day that I would have otherwise recorded this episode. I've had a lingering cough since, but managed to hit several nights of homegrown. It's an 8-day music festival spread across something like 24 venues across the twin ports of Duluth, Minnesota, and Superior, Wisconsin. I feel like I really barely scratched the surface of what the festival has to offer. I made it to 4 of 8 days, though I did have to be at work 2 of the nights of the festival. Monday, I saw Mr. Kickass, who apparently have been playing the fest close to 20 years, and Southpaw, and caught some of the outdoor spin collective fire spinning show after the repairman finished. Tuesday, I saw a few acts at a free stage. I think my highlight was Nate Matson doing some classic knob twiddling with loop tracks. Friday night, I saw Discord at Dawn and Deepfake 5, but I was foiled from seeing a couple of acts that I wanted to see by capacity crowds at the venues. Just this Sunday afternoon, I finally saw friend of the podcast Luke play as Zeb or Zeke and the Runaway Screamings, a.k.a. Zozatraz, as we talked about on this past Dog Days of Advent when Luke was a guest. I've also recorded a guest appearance on the Tangents Trivia podcast. I highly recommend listening to Tangents at any time, but I'll be sure to let you know when my episode has come out. So that was a heavily summarized One Idjit's thoughts on Duluth homegrown music and some other things. I suppose I should get down to telling you about Press Gang. Series 1, Episode 2, Photo Finish, originally aired January 23rd of 1989. That day of note. Not a lot of good news, so I'll pass by the Israeli court case and earthquake tragedy in Tajikistan and mention that this day does mark the beginning of the New Jersey Nets' 32-game losing streak in road games. Sorry, Patrick. And this was the date of the death of renowned surrealist Salvador Dali at age 84. Cracking open Music Week for this week ending January 28th, the top 5 British singles were number 5, She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals, number 4, You Got It by Roy Orbison, number 3, down from number 1 the previous week, Especially for You, the duet from Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan, number 2, The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics, and number 1 for the week was Something's Got a Hold of My Heart by Mark Almond featuring Gene Pitney. So the brief summary, we see in a series of shots that the first edition is still coming up. The lead story is the sale of the club for a supermarket, as decided last episode. We also get the device that every time Lynda is tempted to swear, she puts coins in her swear box. Apparently she has quite the mental potty mouth. Lynda tasks Spike with getting the follow-up information for the club story. Lynda asks someone to answer the phone before realizing they have no phone in the building. It turns out Colin has acquired the phone. He knows a British telecom engineer who has spliced the phone from the main Gazette switchboard and made it undetectable by the newspaper. Meanwhile, Spike and Fraz are out, ostensibly on assignment, but they think it is just to get them out of the way. Spike resolves to prove that he is not stupid, and probably Fraz isn't either. Lynda is certain the Gazette will notice the extra phone line. Spike and Fraz get comments from the currently operating supermarket about the plans across the road, and he said he thought that plan had been scrapped by the council. Chrissy from the main Gazette office comes in and sees through their complex veil of lies when she hears the phone ringing, but she says she won't be the one to tell Kerr about it. Spike phones up a girl who he previously dumped, as her father is on the council. The payphone was 10p. I imagine it's hard to find a payphone these days, and I'm certain 10p won't get it done either. Sarah and Lynda strike out trying to see the woman on the council who originally killed the new supermarket proposal, but Spike bluffs his way in by dressing up as a singing telegram Viking. Turns out his message was spam. He is able to speak to her, though, more than Lynda achieved. Lynda hears of it and tracks Spike down at Zara's Burger Bar. His big interview turns out to be mostly just a denial that the new supermarket would be going in, and Lynda says that it is at least an official denial. The Junior Gazette goes to print with a photo of the 2 men with the club owner on the front page and the story of the alleged supermarket construction plan. The woman at the council contacts Matt Kerr and tells Lynda that the story was wrong and alarmist and she expects an apology. But then the police arrest the two men from the photo. It turns out they were professional arsonists, and thanks to the photo on the front page, they were able to take them in. Lynda says the foiled arson plan and the Junior Gazette's role will be great for the next paper. Favorite line?
Wasn't that a phone ringing?
Oh, no, it was the doorbell.
You don't have a doorbell.
Oh, they must have not then.
Like I said earlier, it was a complex veil of lies. All right, the I didn't get it category. So between the age of the show, the diction of the performers, the accents, and lack of captions to read, there may be some times where I just don't get what they're saying. I've been called an Anglophile, but I don't always expect that I'll understand. So, along with a favorite line or two, there may be occasionally something I don't quite get. Now, this kind of already breaks the category a little bit. It's not got to do with mishearing or anything, and I know that Chris and Illyrio mentioned it on the Last Word podcast, but I have to agree with them. I find it weird, though I understand the meaning when Spike says of Lynda, I'd drink her bathwater. Oh, and also, is Tip-X a trademarked product or a genericized trademark? At one point, Sarah asks if they have to use the water-based Tip-X. I thought commercial product names were generally discouraged at the BBC. Who is? I suppose I should get underway with one of the big ones on the show, so let's look at Julia Sawalha as Lynda Day. Julia was born in 1968 and was 20 years old when Press Gang started. Julia was educated at the Italia Conti Academy of Theatre Arts, and Lynda Day was her first major role. It appears that she was in high demand, even during production of Press Gang, as she guested on Bottom and had a role on a comedy called Second Thoughts. She also began her run as Safi on Absolutely Fabulous before Press Gang ended. She played Lydia Bennett in the 1995 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, the one with Colin Firth. She voiced Ginger in Chicken Run in 2000 and appeared in 7 episodes of Jonathan Creek and 5 episodes of Cranford. More recently, she was in an episode of Vera last year. She was also Bubble Tea in the 2024 series of Masked Singer UK, where she lasted to episode 4 and completely had Jennifer Saunders in the dark about her identity to the very last, by the way. Totally 80s. And or aged poorly. Here's the definition, because I didn't actually use these in the pilot. Totally 80s and or aged poorly. If you've been listening to other series I'm covering, I like to single out something that places the show right in its period. So since we're in 1989 this season, we've got Totally 80s. And meanwhile, if there's anything that makes you say, but I guess that was a different time, I'll try to call it out when I see it. I've had more of that on the Rockford Files than I did on Whiz Kids, and I anticipate possibly even less in these years of the late 80s and early 90s. But considering I was contemporary with these times, will I as quickly realize what to call out? I guess we'll see. This time, though, it's just a totally 80s. Can't get much more 80s than a Rubik's Cube, and it not only appears as set dressing early, but actually gets solved in one scene later on. Chekhov's Rubik's Cube, I suppose. Artifactoids. I looked at the arcade and pinball cabinets at SARS when Spike drops in, and there was one pinball that I couldn't quite make out. There was an ISIS cabinet, which as far as I can tell from scant information online was a generic bit of hardware onto which the operator could install any number of games. Well, one at a time, not a multi-game machine system, if you understand. And last, there was a Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man table. I hadn't seen one before that I can recall, though I didn't have a whole lot of interest in pinball very much at the time. Before I got a good look, I was wondering if it was a baby Pac-Man game, which I have played before, but I was able to rule that one out quickly. Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man was a Bally Midway pinball machine created in 1982, and one source said they produced over 10,000 of this particular unit. The game was fairly standard pinball, but you did get a chance to periodically work to fill a 5x5 light grid with yellow lights while avoiding the red ghost light. Ghost light. I saw a gameplay video and it looked kind of fun, if you like pinball. So what worked? I enjoyed the serial nature of the story. I know that British TV was doing serialized stories within television shows years before anyone was doing it in the US, but it was still refreshing, especially on a show intended for younger audiences. I'm liking the interplay between the characters. The comic timing is just about dead on, and I'm sure they'll be fully into the swing of it in no time. The jokes definitely come in quick-fire succession at times. What didn't work? I didn't particularly like the quick turnabout of the paper in peril to the arson arrests, but it is a 25-minute dramedy, so there's not a whole lot of time for them to work with. Next time will be Press Gang, Series 1, Episode 3, One Easy Lesson. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org. Now, if you took offense at the Viking spam joke, Now, scratch that. I won't take it back. I insist that was a funny joke.